When they found that ancient Greek computer thing,
Long before modern tech ever existed, something extraordinary was lost to the sea. An object so advanced, it shouldn't have belonged to the ancient world. Near the rocky shores of Antikythera, divers stumbled onto more than just a shipwreck. Buried in the depths was a corroded chunk of bronze, hiding a mind-blowing secret. It was a machine, built by hands over 2,000 years ago, that could track the stars. And what it revealed would shake the foundation of history itself. It all started with a dive meant for sponges, but what the crew pulled up changed everything. Off the coast of Antikythera, a Greek island in the Aegean Sea, divers stumbled onto the remains of a massive shipwreck. The year was 1900. Ancient statues, gold coins, shattered pottery. At first glance, it looked like a treasure trove from a forgotten world. But buried among the wreckage was something that didn't quite belong. A crusty, corroded chunk of bronze and wood, barely recognizable, sat quietly in the mix. It didn't look valuable, but decades later, that unassuming lump would turn out to be the oldest known computer on Earth. Back in 1902, archaeologist Valerio Stice noticed something odd inside one of the fragments. A gear fused into stone. Not jewelry, not art. A gear, something mechanical, possibly functional. That one discovery kicked off over a century of research, speculation, and obsession. Over time, more fragments were studied. British historian Derek de Solla Price took the lead in the mid-20th century, suggesting this ancient hunk of metal was no ordinary relic. It was a machine that tracked the heavens. He believed it could calculate eclipses, chart the movements of the sun and moon, and maybe more. He wasn't wrong. And as new imaging technology came along, X-rays, 3D scanning, CT scans, more secrets started spilling out of the rusted remains. The device was packed with gears, over 30 bronze ones that meshed together with insane precision. Each one was carefully shaped and placed, with exact tooth counts to match specific astronomical cycles. The Metonic cycle, 19 years. The Saros cycle, 18 years. Even the Callipic cycle, 76 years. Whoever built this thing didn't just understand time. They understood patterns in the sky that took decades to complete. And they didn't just write them down. They built a device to show it. Tony Freeth and Michael Wright pushed the research even further. Wright, skilled in clockmaking, created working models that showed how the gears meshed and moved. Freeth's team, using high-res scans, uncovered detailed inscriptions in ancient Greek. These were instructions, a guidebook carved into metal. The writing explained how to set the machine to match the sky, align it with known cycles, and even track eclipses. These weren't vague myths or rituals. This was data, and it was all packed into something small enough to fit in a wooden box, probably with dials on the front and back. Inside, there was even a clever system to mimic the moon's strange orbit. The moon doesn't travel at a constant speed. It speeds up and slows down. To recreate that, the builders used a pin and slot mechanism that adjusted the motion of the moon pointer. It was accurate enough to reflect the real thing, centuries before anyone had the tools to fully explain it. There was also a calendar ring on the front, believed to originally track either 365 solar days or 354 lunar ones. Some researchers think it had both, switching between calendars depending on need. One pointer tracked the moon's phases. Another, the mean sun, followed the date. And though the true sun gear hasn't been found, the setup suggests the designers knew the Earth's orbit wasn't perfectly circular. They accounted for the difference. The inscriptions, now readable thanks to scanning, backed it all up. They mentioned the very cycles modern science uses to track the sky. The builders didn't just copy what they saw. They understood it. And there's strong evidence that the machine may have tracked the 5 known planets too. That part hasn't been confirmed yet, but the design hints at functions still hidden in the missing pieces. Every gear, every dial, every carved word proves that this wasn't just a calendar or a clock. It was something far more advanced. An analog computer built over 2,000 years ago. Even the wreck itself added context. New underwater digs brought up more objects, luxury goods, tools, fragments of other devices. That ship wasn't just carrying cargo, it was moving knowledge, part of a massive trade network stretching across the Eastern Mediterranean. And that puts the Antikythera mechanism in a new light. Not just as a piece of tech, but as a symbol of ancient science, global trade, and the intellectual firepower of a civilization that's often underestimated. This thing didn't run on electricity. It didn't need wires or screens. It ran on human hands, turning a crank to move gears that told the future. And for something built so long ago, that's not just impressive, it's straight up wild. And once you understand how it worked, you'll start to wonder just how much the ancients really knew. Modern science has taken a second look at the Antikythera mechanism, and this time, the gloves are off. Armed with high-resolution CT scans, cutting-edge imaging, and computer simulations that would have sounded like science fiction just a few decades ago, researchers are digging deeper than ever into what this strange, gear-filled artifact really was. A research team from the University of Glasgow, using tools originally meant for gravitational wave detection and backed by Bayesian statistics, cracked open one of the mechanism's biggest questions: the calendar ring. Old models guessed it followed the solar year, 365 days. But when fresh measurements met powerful data models, something surprising popped up. The ring actually had 354 or 355 holes, lining up with the lunar calendar that the ancient Greeks once used. That shift changes everything about how this machine was designed and why. None of this happened in a vacuum. Chris Budiselik, who wasn't even a professional scientist, made a replica of the calendar ring that ended up sparking new questions. His careful measurements and observations got picked up by the Glasgow team, who then ran them through high-res scans and simulation models. The result? A challenge to decades of assumptions. And that's just one piece of the puzzle. CT scans also revealed gear teeth and hidden inscriptions inside the rusted remains. Turns out the gears weren't just guesswork. They were cut with such tight precision that even a small slip could have thrown off the whole system. And these weren't machine-made parts. These were handcrafted, down to the last gear tooth, built to track complex astronomical movements. Simulations added another twist. When the mechanism was tested virtually, taking into account wear, corrosion, and even friction, the results were shocking. In its current condition, the device probably would have jammed in a few months, but back in its prime, it must have been a smooth, elegant piece of machinery. That level of design and engineering isn't just impressive, it's humbling. Modern scientists, astronomers, and historians have teamed up from across the globe, merging different specialties to build clearer reconstructions. These new models now combine old-school archaeological methods with the sharpest digital tools available. The result is a level of detail and accuracy that's never been seen before. The findings go far beyond a count of gear teeth or the number of holes in a ring. They speak volumes about ancient Greek science. These weren't just people gazing at the stars. They understood the movement of the cosmos well enough to build a device that predicted lunar phases, eclipses, and even calendar cycles. And they did it all using only gears, dials, and inscriptions. The device is basically an analog computer built centuries before anything like it ever showed up again. The sophistication behind its mechanics, like the pin and slot system that mimicked the moon's strange, elliptical orbit, proves that the Greeks weren't just playing with guesses, they had a solid grasp of the math and engineering needed to mirror nature's rhythm. Every scan and simulation now adds a fresh layer of clarity. Enhanced imaging techniques uncovered faded inscriptions that actually walked users through how to calibrate and operate the machine. The inscriptions reference cycles like the 19-year Metonic cycle and the 18-year Saros eclipse cycle, both of which required accurate gear ratios and careful tuning. And that's exactly what researchers found. Gear systems built with math so tight, the whole machine could play out the celestial dance right down to the day. What are your thoughts? Tell us in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for tuning in, and see you in the next one.